Trusted Americans, salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. You can go to trustedamerican.com and see how much they can save you today. That's trustedamerican.com.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Happy snowy Thursday to everybody here in the Mile High City. If you are watching us somewhere else, hopefully it is nice and warm, although I know across most of America it's cold, and we've had various snow levels everywhere. In Dallas, where they're going to host the Cotton Bowl tomorrow, which will feature Texas and Ohio State, they were worried about end of day snow. And, you know, I grew up in Dallas, and my cousin sent me a video of how it's really coming down, and it would make folks that live in places where it really snows just kind of laugh. So made our way into the studio, in for Ruben. He's under the weather. He's obviously normally your host on a Thursday, taking you through the Guerilla Sports Daily, but we are going to jump right in to the biggest game around these parts, with apologies to people whose teams are in the college football playoffs. But when we talk playoffs, it's going to be all about Broncos country, even though we know there's going to be some good other matchups this week, and you got the Chiefs and Lions on a bye. But your Broncos heading to Buffalo Sunday, 11 o'clock kickoff in Western New York. I will be there. It'll be a raucous atmosphere. It really does feel like a college stadium when you go to a game at Highmark Stadium. It's been a bunch of different names. Ralph Wilson, it was New Era Stadium, and they're building the new stadium on the same property, and that thing's going to be amazing. It's not going to be covered. At least the field won't be covered, but 60% of the seats will be covered. Found that out yesterday from my guy Sal, the sideline reporter there for the Bills. Weather won't really be an issue, though. Buffalo certainly has weather games. This will not be one of them. It's going to be cold-ish, like 27 to 33. If there's snow, it's supposed to happen kind of before the game and on Saturday, but just a little bit, not like we saw a few weeks ago, or we've seen in the past, where in Buffalo the snow piles are 2 feet high, and the fans are either having to help scoop out the snow or sit in the snow after they clear their seat off. So there was plenty that happened yesterday. Wednesday's always the busiest day at practice. It was more crowded. Cortland Sutton mentioned it. Sean Payton started by saying, hey, welcome to and there weren't too many extra people. It was just at all the stations in town, a few national folks. Ryan, who used to write for the Denver Post and now writes in Buffalo, he was in town for the game Sunday, and he stayed. But as the playoffs roll along, if the Broncos were to pull off the upset, it will just get busier and busier. But on Wednesdays, we know Sean Payton talks. It's after their practice, which went about 45 minutes longer than it normally does, and thus their media started about 45 minutes later. But you had Sean, you had Cortland Sutton and PS2, and Bo Nix. So we're going to get into some of the stuff that these guys said. And so I wanted to start with Bo Nix, who had an understanding that making the playoffs isn't the end goal, that they clearly have more. So here's the Broncos rookie QB.
Yeah, I think we can enjoy it when it's finished. I think that's part of the memories and the fulfillment that comes from when you finally get to sit back and you know, see what you did, and you know, all the legacy that you left, and you know, the memories and the talk down the road that you know, comes back up. That's usually when you're able to sit back and enjoy it. But you know, honestly, it's it'd be a shame to get this far and then, you know, start enjoying where you are and then become complacent and then not do your best in this game when you got a chance to go out there and compete to go win. So I think at the end of this year, you know, when this year's all said and done, we got, you know, off time going into next year, that's when I can, you know, sit back and you know, look back on the things that, you know, did well, the good parts, the good memories that you know, I want to remember, but also the things that, you know, it can change for the future and get better at. So, you know, it's all in perspective. We're excited where we are, but we're definitely not going to be complacent. We're going to, you know, keep going for more.
Bo Nix understands what's not only at stake, but what playing for the Denver Broncos means. He's a football fan. He's old enough to remember when the Broncos won Super Bowl 50. Not that it was that long ago, but Bo was probably just getting ready to start start college or getting close to it because he was in college for 6 years. And so I guess he was finishing up high school, but that's when you're forming your sports memories in so many ways. So Bo also talked about Von Miller and understands what Von means to this organization. We'll get to Von in a second, but Bo does kind of seem wise beyond his years. And so while you joke, I was, kind of joking about how old he is. He's an old rookie. He is 24, 25 years old as he comes into the league because he was in college for so long. And so he doesn't look like a normal rookie. And Jaden Daniels had 1 extra year of college, if my math is right. He also doesn't look like a normal rookie. But I did ask Bo at the end of his press conference, because Bo's done a good job of showing us that football does matter, but it's not the only thing. He puts things into perspective. When Alex Forsyth gets bull rushed and is a big reason why they lose that game to the Chiefs, maybe the biggest in that moment, Bo reminds us that, hey, Alex has been through much worse things than this, referring to his dad being killed in a shooting in Oregon when Alex was in junior high. So I asked Bo if he can take time to appreciate the moment, and he says he'll get to all that when the season's over, when his career's over. But he does understand how cool it is to be a rookie QB in the playoffs, because rookie QBs do make the playoffs. We saw it last year with C.J. Stroud, as I mentioned, both Bo and Jaden Daniels. But you don't see it a lot. It doesn't happen a lot. It just happens from time to time with special quarterbacks on special teams, and that's almost the bigger key, is that the quarterback fits with the team and they come together more quickly. And that's certainly the case with the Broncos, who we know were obviously, everyone thought they would only win 5.5 games or have the worst roster in football, be in line for the first pick next year. Well, so of course, Sean Payton, as he is almost every press conference, was asked about his rookie QB and getting prepared for this moment.
A rookie quarterback starting his first NFL game, is it
his first playoff game?
A big step, and then what makes you think?
I think, listen, he's played in bigger games. I mean, he's played in a lot of big games, and honestly, last week for him, for many guys, it was like a playoff game. So he's seasoned and he's been in big moments, and you know what? He's going to play in bigger games.
I have to appreciate Sean Payton understanding that his QB will be poised and ready for what he's going to face. And again, it's a hostile environment, but I was on the radio yesterday in Boston because I wanted to preview this game. It's funny how busy you can get either when a coach gets fired or hired, a big draft pick, or your team's in the playoffs that you cover, because all of a sudden cities that don't have teams in the playoffs want to get previews for the matchup. And so I was talking to actually one of my closest friends in Boston, and he was talking about Bo Nix not being overwhelmed. And to some degree, when you're a quarterback in the SEC and in the Pac-12, but almost every stadium he played in is as big, if not bigger, than most NFL stadiums. When you play in the Auburn-Alabama game, when you play in the Civil War between Oregon and Oregon State, if you're playing in Eugene, you're talking about 80,000 people. There's not 80,000 people in Buffalo. When you play in Tennessee, there's 108,000 people or whatever. There's 102,000. Same with at Kyle Field when you play Texas A&M. So he's used to big, hostile crowds. And so maybe the moment isn't too big, which is obviously something that Coach was alluding to there. Sean Payton also very complimentary of Von Miller. Von is a Bronco through and through, and I brought this up Monday on Off Field. Von would love to finish his career here. I don't know if it'll happen. In fact, I would bet that it doesn't happen. But Von, I think, would love a swan song, a final year in Denver. He's had his best year in Buffalo. This year, he was playing really well before he tore his knee after first signing there. Last year, looked at times like a shell of himself. He played in 29 snaps against the Broncos in that Monday night game, had 1 tackle. I think he had no pressures, no sacks, and we know Russell Wilson will run himself into a sack, and Von just still didn't look right. This year, he's got 6 sacks, and you'll hear some of the reverence he has for the Broncos, the organization, and of course the city of Denver and Broncos country. We have a small clip. He talked for about 3 minutes about how much he loves Denver and how he still talks to everybody. But he mentioned the 3 or 4 seconds that every play that he's in, he wants to win. He wants to dominate, whether he's matched up with Garrett Bowles or Mike McGlinchey. And so here's just a snippet of Von Miller from yesterday in Buffalo talking about Broncos country and the Denver Broncos.
I had 2 days to really think about it, and it's all love. I can't even start to play that delusion of it's hatred or I can't even start to play that game. That I will put myself so far in a place that's not even close to being reality. That would be it would be hurtful to the way I want to play. I love those guys. I love everything about the Denver Broncos. I pay close attention to the Denver Broncos. You know, I haven't even talked to Bo Nix or follow him on Instagram or nothing like that. And I feel like I know Bo Nix just by staying in touch with Broncos country and staying in touch with the Broncos. I know they're building a new facility. They got new jerseys. You know, all the new players from Mims and, you know, all the guys. Never met these guys, but I feel like I've met them because I pay so close attention to the Denver Broncos. Still close with Patrick Surtain, Cortland Sutton, Garrett Bowles. We probably talk once or twice every single month. Last month, we never even had the idea that we would be in a playoff game playing into each other, like playing against each other.
And so, Von Miller, permanent fixture in Broncos country. When you're a Super Bowl MVP, you're, of course, going to be revered forever. It is worth noting Von did sell his house a couple of years ago, and I've talked to him since. He came back for his charity event that he's still doing here every year, and he wishes he still had his house because he had customized it. He doubled the size of it and wished that he had that house, but he spends his offseason in Dallas, his hometown. And so he and Pat Surtain overlap just in Pat's rookie year before Von gets traded and goes on to win the Super Bowl with the Rams. Nonetheless, Von talks about how he talks to Garrett Bowles all the time and PS2. So I asked PS2, coming on the heels of what Von said yesterday, just what his relationship is. And even though they saw each other last year and talked throughout the season and offseason and saw each other in the offseason as well, what it means when he sees Von Miller on a game day, even if he's on the other side of the field.
Yeah, I just know how much Broncos country supports Von and how much Von supports the Broncos all in all. I mean, he's been here through most of his career, obviously, and, you know, the time that I got to share with him is pretty memorable. You know, us just chatting, him bringing me in as a young rookie, teach me the ways, how to go about things. You know, it's pretty awesome to see that and experience that. And I know Von holds a special place in his heart with Broncos country, and because, you know, he's won his Super Bowls here, all his accolades come from Broncos country, so it's going to be a huge game for him, I believe. But I'll tell him this now, like, it's our time to shine now. You know, he had his time earlier back in his days, but it's our time now. So, but it's going to be good catching up with him and seeing him.
And so we know that the Broncos are going to have their hands full with the Bills. They're somewhere between 8.5 and 9-point underdogs. In fact, just for fun, I will check the most recent line or where it stands as of now. And if it's moved, then it's still sticking right around 9. I don't think that the Bills are going to cover the 9. I guess it won't blow my mind if they do, but I think the Broncos match up well. I know that folks in the Broncos building, coaches, perhaps players, personnel staff, but people that I trust, people that I talk to, were not in a hurry to maybe go to Baltimore had things played out differently and their seeding was such that they would have ended up taking on the Ravens. But they liked their chances against the Bills. As we saw, they went in last year and won. The Bills don't have a true number one receiver. Going to talk to Vance Joseph today about how you approach things when Josh Allen does such a good job of distributing the ball to everybody, but doesn't necessarily have that go-to guy. Not that he doesn't have players he throws it to a little more, but doesn't have Jamar Chase, doesn't have Stephon Diggs, who he had for so many years, doesn't have, in the Broncos case, a Cortland Sutton that's a go-to guy in big moments. And so how that will play out for what PS2 and the secondary can do, I guess we will certainly find out on Sunday. But I like the Broncos' chances to cover and maybe perhaps even shock the world and then go to take on a Chiefs team where they know they can win a game in Arrowhead. They had the Chiefs backed against the wall, ready to be beaten. And if they make a field goal, they get out of Arrowhead as winners for the first time, I think, since going all the way back to 2015 when Peyton Manning and company went in there on Thursday Night Football. I want to say it was the second game of the year and stole a win. Literally, Bradley Roby rips the ball out of, I want to say, Jamal Charles' hands, and Brandon Marshall scoops and scores. And that was the first of many close wins for the Broncos that year. I think they had 11 wins in games that were less than 7 points. All right, speaking of teams that are finding ways to win, Nuggets second night in a row, no joker, and they're still able to take care of the Clippers pretty easily. And it's the third time the Clippers have been here, but it was 126-103 yesterday. And even with Norman Powell and what he's been able to do against the Nuggets, he didn't, of course, go as crazy as he had. Jamal Murray had 21 points, 9 assists, but most impressively, Jamal Murray gets the heralded defensive player of the game chain. And I can't give you the stats on this, but since they've been handing out the defensive player of the game chain the last couple of years, of the starters, I feel comfortable in saying I know that Jamal Murray, when you look at whether it was KCP last year, now Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Joker, and Jamal, there's no question that Jamal has received the defensive player of the game chain the least of all the starters. Nonetheless, here is the Blue Arrow postgame.
With those two guys out, everybody's having a chance to step up and have the ball in the hand more and kind of, play their game and stuff like that. So I think just kind of carry this over for when everybody gets back. I don't think we got to overthink it. I think it's just a confidence booster when you get to, Julian and P-Wad and even Hunter getting more opportunity, even to make a mistake and come back from it. I think those moments are huge. So, like I said, all this is just preparation for the playoffs and getting right because we're going to need the young guys. We're going to need them. And yeah, so this is just a good confidence booster.
So always good to see Murray contribute on both ends. MPJ gave you 19. You got 19 from Russell Westbrook starting again. And it is going to be interesting, I think, for Michael Malone to decide, does he want to leave Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup and either bring Aaron Gordon off the bench, which I doubt he does, Michael Porter Jr., I doubt, likely Christian Brown would get put on the bench in that case, and that would allow you to pick that tempo up from the jump. Last night, Denver jumps out to a 33-19 lead, a little closer second quarter, and then they were able to just continue to increase their lead as the game went on. DeAndre Jordan getting a start, and then Dario Saric for the second straight night playing more minutes than we've seen Saric play. But I mentioned Westbrook. The highlight of the night might have been him telling it's Ivan, right? But Zubats, the big kid in the middle for the Clippers, Zubats, Ivica. I don't know if they call him Ivan. I guess I would need Mark's help. Ivica? I don't know. We'll go with Big Zubats. And he called him Zoo. But there's good audio because it's kind of a quiet moment of Russ saying, hey, you better block me out or I'm getting right by you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And he's like, you can try to block. And, I'm paraphrasing. And Russ does. It's on a free throw. Russ jumps inside of him and the ball comes off the rim and he's able to put it back. And Zubats, despite being almost a foot taller than Russ, unable to do anything about it. So Russ, another big game for the Nuggets as a starter. He had the highest plus minus of anybody on either team. And he had the second highest behind Jamal Murray, but he was plus 18, those 19 points to go with 8 assists. Here is Russell Westbrook postgame.
Russ, can you just take us through that sequence with the lane violation and then the tip-in on DJ?
So I told him I was going to get the rebound after I got the lane violation. So, okay, I said, well, I'm going to get this one. I told Zoo that if he missed, I'm going to get this one. Ain't nothing you can do about it. And he missed, and I got it, and then nothing he can do about it.
Thanks, Russ.
There you go, your walk-off moment, mic drop moment from Russell Westbrook. Always good when you can get a laugh and walk out after a win. Again, second straight night without Joker, second night of a back-to-back against the Clippers team that has had your number a little bit, although you did get revenge in the third game. And that's the third time. They're going to play him 5 times because of the way the in-season tournament went and then having to sneak extra games in or leave the schedule open. Some teams where you wouldn't always see teams in the West 4 times, depending on just your division. You would see them at least 3. You see every team at least twice, including the East, where you'll see Cleveland home and road, Boston home and road. But they're seeing the Clippers 5 times, including 3 times in Denver. So good to know if you're a Nugget season ticket holder. I'm sorry. You don't have to see the Clippers the rest of the year in Denver. There's going to be, I believe, one more game in LA. But the Clippers are not coming back here unless it's a playoff matchup. And so the Nuggets have now evened it up at 2-2. We'll see if they can take that series lead. So if they are close to the Clippers in the playoff race, I don't think they will be, but they would hold that tiebreaker. And so with Russell Westbrook, who spent the last few years in LA with the Clippers, Lakers before that, he obviously has brought plenty of energy and a spark to this Nuggets team. And And so as Michael Malone went through his post-game comments, he, of course, was asked about what he's seen from Russell Westbrook, who's been in the starting lineup because of injuries and then has stayed there between injuries and illness now.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to him just being a pro's pro, a vet, experienced, and, you know, I don't know if you guys notice, because Russ always plays hard as hell. I think he plays a little bit harder against the Clippers. And the game matters just a little bit more. He hates to lose. And, you know, sometimes he's a guy that literally, like, you always hear it, but he imposes his will in the game. You know what I mean? He really does. It's incredible to watch the things that he does, the aggression, the attack mindset. 19, 8, and 6 tonight. And what he's doing as a 17-year vet is just incredible. CB had good moments. Michael Porter was super efficient tonight. DeAndre Jordan stepping in, battling Zubats, getting us 12 and 9. He had a hell of a pass, and he's doing this to the bench like he's a playmaker. But good team win. And, you know, you feel good when you're able to have wins like this because it seems like we've had so many games that have gone down to the wire. And so to get a game like this was rewarding.
Michael Malone always better after a win. Sometimes he can be good after a loss. Sometimes he can be not very fun to talk to after a loss, as we saw with that loss to the Spurs Friday night and how quickly he came in and wanted to get out of there and get on a plane and go to San Antonio. But the Nuggets have been winning more games than they've been losing. They're playing better basketball. Their energy level is clearly higher. Their defensive effort and execution is better. And so now they'll look to keep it going. They welcome in a young Nets team on Friday, and you got to like their chances there. Then they go to take on the Western Conference champs back-to-back in Dallas Sunday, right at I want to say the exact same time, or maybe it's 2 hours after the Broncos and Bills get going. Maybe the tip-off is 1 o'clock here, and they're there Sunday and Tuesday. So back-to-back, like we saw with Memphis in the same city. They'll be in Big D after the snow Sunday and Tuesday. And with the Kyrie Irving injury, they're not going to have to worry about Kyrie. But Nuggets clearly playing better ball. Hopefully Joker feels better after missing a couple games back-to-back with a non-COVID illness. And so hopefully he is not only better, but up to 100% and ready to take on the Nets Friday. Avs hit the road for a few. They start in the Windy City last night. Doesn't go great. They lose 3-1 to the Blackhawks. And this isn't the best Blackhawks team we've ever seen, but the Blackhawks able to, in fact, as they scroll down, the Blackhawks are the worst team in hockey. Last night they weren't, though. They've got now 30 points on the year, but it just wasn't the Avs' night. 3-1, the Avs come up short. They'll have a chance to bounce back tonight, but before we look forward and what they're going to do in Minnesota, let's check in with our friends Jesse Montano and Megan Angley, who take you through every Avalanche game and offer this following the tough 3-1 loss to a bad Blackhawks team.
BK, Jesse Montano, and Megan Angley. Avs lose 3-1 to the Chicago Blackhawks in one of the more disappointing games of this season so far, Megan. Just no energy, no real jump, and as you pointed out, intensity kind of went down as the entire game went on.
Yeah, what felt like a strong first period that was plenty to build off of just became all right, that wasn't a very good second period, and a third period that had bursts of effort, but because they were chasing the game. Mm-hmm. And so the whole of the effort wasn't good enough from the Avs. And great goaltending performance from Peter Mrazek opposite of them, and that just made things more difficult coming out of the first period, and they didn't have a different answer for it.
Mm-hmm. Peter Mrazek, goaltender for Chicago Blackhawks, played very well. Trent Miner got his first NHL start for the Avs, and it wasn't terrible, but maybe left a little bit more to be desired there.
It was clear how raw his game was at this level. It's his first ever NHL start. He'd come in as relief before. That was actually a pretty good showing from him, but in the Chicago game, you could tell that the speed was a little bit of a surprise to him, and as a result, the game unfolded very quickly around him, and his reaction time felt a little delayed at times, and he was put in vulnerable positions because the team made mistakes in front of him that allowed a little chaos at the net front. And as a result, it was not the outing that I had hoped for Trent Miner. Effort was there, not the performance that I had hoped for. But I think the accountability is shared around the team.
Yeah, effort was there. He was trying. Results not quite. Yusel Parsonen, maybe the bright spot in this game early on, does get his first goal as an Av after being acquired just last week. And it was a nice goal too. We've heard Jared Bednar talk about these flashes of skill and offensive talent. Maybe a little bit of reason to be optimistic about the offensive upside of the newest Av, Yusel Parsonen.
Well, and I look at his whole game, and he found a way to make an impact despite the Avs playing 11-7 and then having some of the forward minutes sheltered in ways. He was not one of those players. It's probably the most we've seen him play since joining the Avs, and he not only gets rewarded with a great goal that was born from hard work, he registers 4 shots on net, which is among the most of the team that night, and 50% in the face-off dot, registers a couple hits too. So I think the effort, in complaining about it on a team level, I think the effort was there for Yusel Parsonen, and he responded to the opportunity, the elevated opportunity, as well as he could.
Yeah. So that was the game last night, which they do drop 3-1, but no rest for the weary. The Avs are on to Minnesota tonight. Sounds like Jonathan Drouin is going to be at least an option come game time, given the fact that you played last night. It's really big for them to hopefully be getting a body back in the lineup tonight.
It is. They're managing his injury. I respect the way that they're trying to approach it with caution. And so I think having him as an option already improves the bottom line. They were just kind of entering the night, obviously a bit depleted with the Chicago game. And then they get a fresh goaltender in net too, in Mackenzie Blackwood. And so they're going to need as much of an advantage as possible because Minnesota will be the rested team. And they've just won 4, and they're on a little bit of a heater right now. Avs are trying to bounce back in the second leg of a back-to-back after a little bit of a disappointing effort. So they're going to be counting on a strong goaltender performance from Blackwood. Drouin obviously makes the top 6 picture a lot better and a more complete attack too from that forward group with him in the lineup. But there's a lot of ways the Avs can improve from Chicago into Minnesota.
Yeah, like you said, they might need Mackenzie Blackwood to maybe help them hang on a little bit here as they settle into the game tonight, get their tired legs going a bit. He's been able to do that for them, BK, so we'll see if he can do it tonight here in Minnesota. Avs dropped 1 last night in Chicago. Going to try to bounce back tonight against the Wild. Back to you.
And then the final thing we'll touch on before we get out of here is the college football playoff, which I think so far has been exciting and has been cool to have the 12 teams. Our pal Ryan Harris from We're the Harrises, he is in South Florida. They're playing those first round after giving them 4 teams a bye. The first round was on college campuses, which I thought was great. Penn State hosted a game. Notre Dame hosted Indiana. So they kind of kept playing. 3 of the 4 teams that had a bye, I believe, all lost. And so tomorrow, weather permitting, and I don't think the snow is going to be as bad as the folks in Dallas seem to think, although it is worth noting, Dallas doesn't have snowplows. So they have to borrow them from Oklahoma and have people drive them in. So that is kind of an issue because I've been there for both the Super Bowl and an NBA All-Star game where it has snowed and there's been ice storms and it debilitates the city. But that game's tomorrow with the Longhorns and Ohio State. Today you've got Notre Dame and Penn State in the Orange Bowl, and I haven't even checked the line, but I'm going to do that right now. I still like Notre Dame's team all the way around. The quarterback for Penn State, who is coming back, even though he could end up being the top quarterback taken, some people think, if he were to come out and Drew Aller, he's far and away the best player on Penn State's team. And so we'll see what he can do. But I like Notre Dame on both sides of the ball. They were able to take to Georgia in the last round. And part of that, of course, is that Georgia was without their quarterback as Carson Strong was hurt. And so as I try to figure out the line, I don't know why I can't. I'm still picking Notre Dame to win and advance to the national championship game, which will take place on the 20th, I believe, on that Monday after the second round of the NFL playoffs. So teams are going to have 8, 9, 10 days to get ready. And so I think Notre Dame gets back to its first national championship game in a while. Notre Dame is a slight favorite to win the game. And so I'm gonna take the Irish against Penn State. It'll make our pal Ryan Harris happy. It'll make Vic Lombardi happy. Anybody else, with Notre Dame. And if Penn State wins, it'll make whoever you can think of that's a Penn State fan happy. I'm going to get out of here, though. We've got plenty more for you today, all day long here on Guerilla Sports. Benny Fowler, Super Bowl 50 champion, is stopping by to hop on off field with Nate Jackson and I coming up here in about a half hour at 11. We've got off court with Liv Moods and I are going to be coming your way at noon. We're going to have Off Ice with Jesse and Megan, looking at last night's game, looking ahead to the Avs and Wild tonight. And then also Dumb Jock, as former Bronco Brandon Lloyd is set to stop by and talk with Nate, and that's going to drop a little later this afternoon. And I do believe we're going to have a new episode of We're the Harrises that is going to come together today, and you'll probably see it tomorrow in the morning. So I appreciate everybody, especially Jay on the other side of the glass. I hope, Ruben, you feel better soon. And thanks for rolling with me. In place of Ruben, I'm Brandon Cristal, and this has been the Guerilla Sports Daily, presented by our friends at Trusted American Mortgage.